Organization, 300,000 children younger than 19 are diagnosed with cancer every year. According to WHO, 300,000 children younger than 19 are diagnosed with cancer every year. It's a very, very sobering statistic. But that's a global statistic. Today, let's talk about childhood cancer in Nigeria. And to get more insight into that, we have a special report from the Nigeria Info News team.
The memories we make as children live with us for the rest of our lives. The games we play, the friends we make, they all form the foundation on which we place the building blocks of the rest of our lives. However, for some children, their childhood memories are largely made up of visits in and out of hospital. The financial strains of such trips on parents are seen by the children who are trying to understand why mom and dad look stressed. These are some of the experiences of children living with cancer. One of such children is Michael Onyewuchi. He has leukemia. His mother, Mrs. Ijoma Onyewuchi, says it is difficult to watch him go through overwhelming and excruciating pains.
Before I went to Lut, Michael cannot walk. From here to him, tell me, Mommy, carry me. I can't walk. I keep on backing him until I get to him. He will be having fever. Bones, the two legs will be paining Michael. I cannot, he was at the age of 2 years and now he's 6 years old now. I don't know, I keep on backing Michael till I get to Lut. Now asked me to do some series of tests. They now noticed that they told me that it is leukemia. Fever non-stopping, leg paining. In fact, he cannot even eat. Everything was complicated. I don't understand what was actually happening. So even when I got to it, I didn't know. I wanted to take him back. So even the doctors encouraged me not to go anywhere. That since I'm the mother of Michael, I should not listen to the money they asked me to bring to estimate. They were even telling me to estimate from 5 million upwards. That is not something that will take 10 naira. To do the final test for Michael, for more than 1 year now, they have been calling me to come and do this final, to screen the child. Chemo drugs are too exorbitant. So many children died on the process anyway.
Some parents whose children are also living with cancer say only few childhood cancer cases receive complete therapy, as some children die in the course of therapy either from the disease being at an advanced stage or complications from chemotherapy or late detection.
The cancer started like this. She fell down in the bedroom. For her to take her body, she fell for ties. So we thought that it's ordinary bone break. The directors that job people, when they are massaging the leg, they discover that the marrow inside the bone burst. Then when they took us to hospital, they said that they have turned to cancer. The experience I have in this issue is delay is more dangerous. Had I know I went to hospital earlier time, they for not cut the leg. Except this, my daughter, I don't know that children also have cancer. We did the process. My husband died. It's not easy thing for us. I'm advising every parent. Anytime you see the symptom, you go straight to hospital so that you will not follow me and do the mistake I did. It's out of ignorance.
When he was 12 years old, he has a measles. So that measles led to a severe headache, and he was given some drugs. After like 6 months, he kept on complaining about that severe headache. He got blind. We now went to UCH Ibadan, and he was diagnosed with brain cancer. It was a very pathetic issue, and we did the surgery last July. Spent over 2 million naira. He has not regained his sight back. According to the surgeon in UCH, they have to finish up the remaining tissue cancer in his brain through a radiotherapy section. So we were transferred from UCH Ibadan to Lut, Lagos. I have a limited time for us to do the radiotherapy, because according to the surgeon, we have to do the radiotherapy in time, because if it grows back, we have to perform another surgery, which I pray that won't occur.
A consultant pediatrician, Dr. Nneka Nwobi, says globally more than 300,000 children have cancer in a year. Dr. Umobi explained that the survival rate of children living with cancer in Nigeria is 20% as against 80% abroad.
We have many children coming down with cancer, but unfortunately, because we don't have adequate cancer registry in Nigeria, we don't know the number of children who come down with cancer. But then it's estimated that more than 300,000 children have cancer in a year. The ones that do not present in hospitals, of course, are lost to these statistics.
Dr. Nwobi says early detection of childhood cancer is crucial to improving the rate of survival and better health outcomes for children or adolescents with cancer. She says the most common types of cancers in children and adolescents is leukemia, which is the cancer of the blood or bone marrow. Cancerous cells can also attack the brain and central nervous system, causing tumors and other sorts.
There are different types of cancer in a child, from the head to the toe. We have brain, eye, the nerves, the nervous system, the skin, the kidney, the liver, the blood, the bone, name it. We have all these cancers in children. So the presentation or the signs and symptoms, of course, will differ depending on the type of cancer that the child has. A cancer like leukemia, for instance, mimics symptoms of malaria. There is fever, there is anemia. The child does not have much blood in the city. The child is looking whitish, not looking as pink as the child should look. Of course, in a cancer like the brain tumor, you have vomiting, you have change in character. The head may actually start getting bigger. The organs in the head may start protruding, organs like the eye.
Dr. Nwobi, who is also the founder of Children Living with Cancer Foundation, urged private companies to invest in corporate social responsibility projects for cancer patients to access treatment.
If we can do everything to help these children and their parents to be welcomed. Now, the other thing that we see is parents losing jobs while their children are undergoing treatment. As a matter of fact, on the 28th of September, while concluding our Child Cancer Awareness Month program, in Lutz, a mother was taking her child home against medical advice. When she was intercepted and asked what the problem was, she's a nursing mother nursing her baby at home, while her husband was the one staying with the child in the hospital. And the man had gotten notice that if he doesn't resume work the following week, he will lose his job. Now, if he loses his job, the man is not working, what happens to the child? Somebody must stay with the child in the hospital. It's not like an adult that you leave and come, maybe visiting time to see what is going on. You have to stay with the child. So these are some of the challenges that we come across. People need to know that yes, it is there and it needs to be tackled head on.
Meanwhile, Michael's parents remain hopeful and trust in modern science that their son will form happy childhood memories after becoming cancer-free. This report was produced for Nigeria Info by Joy Kalio.
And joining us on the phone to shed some more insight into this scourge of childhood cancer is a medical doctor. He's a consultant pediatrician, Dr. Ayarena. Thank you so much for joining us on Hard Facts.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for having me on the show. Hello, Niger. Yay! Mama, I'm on radio, Mama.
All right. So you work with kids, and so, you have to be very happy and cheerful all the time.
I try. Despite Lagos traffic, I do my best.
You do your best. Great. All right. So let's talk about cancer. As my doctor on the special report, she said something that struck me. She said that more and more people need to know that this is out there. Would you say that there's not enough awareness in Nigeria about childhood cancer?
Sandra, I tell you the truth. The fact is, people have it in their minds that adults can have cancer.
Hmm.
Breast cancer, cervical cancer, testicular cancer, prostate cancer. So a bunch of cancers that people realize adults can have. So when it comes to children, and I tell people that, children can have cancer, and they look at me like, have you gone nuts? Are you bonkers? As in, how can children have cancer? I mean, so for a lot of people, even the most educated people, they don't know that children can actually develop cancers. So there was once I actually diagnosed cancer in a child, and because I had been having fever on and off, and then I told the mom that this is a very strange fever to be having, and I think your child has cancer. And of course, she rejected it, and she was like, a child has cancer. Sadly, it turned out that the child actually did have the cancer, but fortunately, he's getting the treatment that he needs. So it's a real thing that people are unaware that children can have cancer.
Now, the World Health Organization says that the most common categories of childhood cancers include leukemia, brain cancers, lymphomas. And I wonder if that's the case here in Nigeria, or are there other categories of childhood cancers that are more common here?
Great question. The truth is, when it comes to cancers, different cancers will be more prevalent in different parts of the world. Meaning that if you move from America to certain parts of Africa, the cancer that is most common changes. The figures that WHO has given us are figures that pull everyone together. So when you consider everyone together, then leukemias are probably the most common.
Okay.
But then again, how much information are we contributing to that statistic
That pool
WHO is exactly presenting to us? And even within Nigeria, what some of the researchers have found is that if you go to the south or the southeast, lymphomas are probably the commonest. Now, lymphomas are just cancers of the tissues that fight off infections. While if you come to Lagos, you find out that we have more of leukemias. And meaning that within even your country, your geographical region, you even have variations, which make it more important for us to study these cancers and document and find out, okay, so in Lagos, what do we have more of? Oh, in Enugu, what do we have more of? So that we tailor our treatment and interventions to the cancers that occur most commonly in each of those regions.
Are there factors that contribute to the kinds of cancers you find in certain regions? Because you just piqued my interest.
Yes. So as a matter of fact, you find out that in Lagos, which is more urbanized, diet is more westernized, and people are exposed to more, fumes and hydrocarbons and pollutions and pollutants. It mimics Lagos. If any part of the country was closest to what obtains in the West, then it's probably Lagos. And so you find out that exposure to certain chemicals are probably predisposing children in Lagos to developing more leukemias than anywhere else. And so environmental factors are so critical and so important in determining the type of cancers that children develop. And so that's a thing that is still being studied. And Sandra, we're exposed to so many things that we can't even think about, including our diet, including the air that we breathe, including the plastic. You've heard about people leaving plastic in their cars, and in fact, plastic getting into the water. I mean, how much of that gets into our body makes changes and alterations and actually leads to cancer? We don't know. These things are the questions that we're asking, and we're still trying to find answers.
And when we started this conversation, you mentioned the perception of the public here in Nigeria, and we need to address that again, because like you said, when people hear about childhood cancer, they often say, it's not possible. No, children don't smoke now. They don't smoke. They don't engage in all these other risky lifestyle choices. So I'll need you to clarify for us, how often is cancer linked to a lifestyle, and how often is it just naturally occurring?
Oh, well, unfortunately, with children, it's a bit more difficult to link childhood cancer to particular lifestyle choices. Unlike an adult, where you find out that most cancers are linked to smoking, tobacco, but with children, I mean, the link is not as strong, because first of all, with childhood cancer, they haven't had that much time to study, the exposures that the child has, the exposures that the child has had. So for a child, it's a combination of a genetic predisposition and then an environmental exposure. Unfortunately, for most childhood cancers, nobody really knows what causes them. And that's just, why So if you think about the amount of money that goes into childhood cancer research abroad, it's a staggering amount. And that's because they are trying to answer this exact question that you asked me, Sandra. What really is the cause of childhood cancer? Now, you find out that some children, or most children who have childhood cancers, their genes are predisposed in such a way that some genes malfunction. There are genes that we call tumor suppressor genes, and everybody has got one of those. And they're like fantastic, wonderful genes that what they do is that if a cell is trying to misbehave and just trying to divide and grow larger than it should get, which is essentially what cancer is, and spread beyond its borders, the tumor suppressor gene tells the cell to stop that. We need to stop that nonsense that you're doing, So it tells it to actually stop doing that. But in some children, the tumor suppressor gene has an error. And so the cells just begin to multiply and proliferate, to an extent that it becomes sort of like uncontrollable. So some people have a defect in that tumor suppressor gene, but it never really manifests until they're exposed to something in the environment that triggers it to manifest itself. Some of these exposures include ionizing radiation. And an example of ionizing radiation is things that you get when you do a chest X-ray or you do a CT scan, which is why in children, if we do a chest X-ray or an X-ray of any sort, it really must be done for the most justifiable reasons, because you don't know which child has the gene that will make the X-ray trigger the tumor suppressor gene to be deactivated, or that will trigger the gene for the cancer to be activated. So things like X-rays, things like certain chemicals that children are exposed to, like toluene and benzene. These are chemicals that are used often in paint companies or in paint manufacturing companies, which is why the purification of the parent might be important. So sometimes if the child ingests or drinks these chemicals, and some of these chemicals can even be absorbed through the skin. So taking chemicals out of each of children is very essential. But these are only a few of the things that we know. The multitude of things that may actually be causing it are still unknown to science.
My goodness. So when you explain it like that and talk about, these genes that are supposed to fight some cells that are supposed to behave, and, those genes just basically have an error, and so they don't do the fight well, it doesn't sound so scary, and then you see a child who's dealing with cancer and you realize just how scary cancer can be.
How scary it becomes.
Now,
Exactly.
the WHO says that in rich countries, 80% of childhood cancer cases are successfully treated, while in poor and middle-income countries, the success rate is 20%.
Yeah.
Does 20% sound about right for Nigeria?
It's hard to put that in context. I mean, because you find out that different centers will have different success rates. But yes, I think 20% is about a fair estimate of the present situation.
Now, this low success rate, how much of it is due to late diagnosis?
Sandra, I would say if you were to put a blame in terms of percentage, I would imagine that late presentation is probably 50%, 50 to 60%, because for a lot of reasons. So, for one, the health-seeking behavior of our society is still rather poor, in that when somebody has a fever, a child has a fever, or a child has a certain symptom or is swelling somewhere, they say, they'll probably go tomorrow, probably go next week. Let's just massage it with some rub, let's just use some aboniki, something. And so they don't present to the hospital on time, if they present to the hospital at all. When they decide that they want to seek help, sometimes they seek help in the traditional homes, in the traditional, herbs and native alternatives. So those are the first ports of call, for quite a handful of Nigerians. Lagos isn't the ideal situation, because quite frankly, a minority of Nigerians live in the urban areas. Most Nigerians live in rural areas where they don't have access to healthcare centers, they don't have access to modern healthcare facilities, and so they will seek alternatives that are more traditional. Furthermore, you find out that when they do get to the health centers, a lot of healthcare professionals don't recognize that childhood cancer is a possibility in some of these children. And, so they're not aware of what the symptoms of childhood cancers might be, the things that should alert you to realizing that, this is not just an ordinary fever of malaria, this could be cancer. So even the healthcare workers, too, are quite unaware, to a large extent, of what childhood cancers look like and what you should look out for in childhood cancers. So a lot of these make implementation and commencement of treatment prolonged or delayed, so that by the time it is finally diagnosed as cancer, it's probably at a stage 3 or a stage 4, and the cancer has spread or in the medical term metastasized to very vital organs, and then very little can be done except console the family, and then unfortunately, what the child go.
Now, you've talked about, of course, the medical facilities, a lot of Nigerians being unable to access the healthcare that they need. And I have to ask how much of the low success rate is due to that, that lack of medical facilities for treatment, and how much is due to prohibitive cost of treatment, because cancer treatment, no be beans,
Yeah, it'll be your father, right? So
See.
I'm telling you, it's a serious financial burden, and so a significant proportion of treatment failure for cancer can be attributed to the fact that not enough centers actually offer comprehensive cancer care treatment. And this is because, first of all, training is very essential. Training is required because to become a pediatric oncologist, you probably have to do a regular residency, which takes about 6 years. But this is after 6 years of medical school, then another 6 years of residency, then maybe 2 years of a fellowship. So cumulatively, that's about 14 years of training to get to become a pediatric oncologist. And not very many people want to do that kind of reading anymore, quite frankly. And, you find out that even the cost of, training a pediatric oncologist is actually quite prohibitive. So you're either doing it yourself or the government is doing it for you. And then so apart from the fact that, manpower is lacking, you find out that even the nursing services, so nurses that care for children who are living with cancer, you need a specialized sort of training. The presence of a psychologist, support groups, all those are necessary, because it's not just a multidisciplinary approach, so that it's a whole load, it's a village. It takes a village practically to treat a child that has cancer. Then furthermore, you find out that with children, with the cost, you need to pay all these people. A bed space is required, oxygen is required, blood is required. We're going to need to do tests that will help us to not only diagnose the cancer, but will tell us what subtype of the cancer is. Because, for instance, for leukemias, you find that there are leukemias that have a good prognosis in that they are easy to treat and they are easy to cure and they do well. And there are those that if we check, certain parameters in the cells, you can just tell that, let's just package this child for, the beyond, to put it, a bit craftily. And when you see those things, it's not cheap to get those tests done. As a matter of fact, when I was still, quite actively in the oncology unit where I was working, it was that we had to send most of these samples to South Africa. And so between when we would send the samples and when we would get results, it took us from 2 weeks, and that's 2 weeks of valuable time, lost. And that was a bit of a challenge. And this wasn't free. This was a test that, of course, the parents would have to pay out of pocket for. Health insurance is not universal, not available. And so you find out that between starting treatment and when treatment ends, which is about 2 years, parents would have had to sell things, would have had to, borrow, and we're practically bankrupt in the name of caring for a child that has an illness. And they have other children and other responsibilities. So, a lot of failure for treatment for cancer, and a lot of them couldn't even sustain the treatment for too long. They either fall out, go away. And if you break the treatment of cancer, even if it's because you didn't have money to come back, the cancer gets the opportunity to actually come back with more aggression, more aggressively than than before. So these things, serve as huge obstacles to getting the good success rate to cure in cancer in Nigeria.
So as is for the old, so it is for the young. You're talking about all of these things and it sounds very familiar because I had to deal with these things when my father was dealing with colon cancer. And colon cancer is one of those ones you find very late, So by the time we found it, it was already at stage 4. So it was already too late to do anything about it, So it's a bit depressive devastating when you think about the fact that it's not good for the old, it's not good for the young. Are we ever going to find the sweet spot? I don't know. But you're listening to our consultant pediatrician. He's on the show with us today talking about cancer in children. If you just joined us, welcome. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, and we need to take a quick break. So, doctor, I'm going to ask that you please hold the line, and when we come back, we'll talk about some things that parents can look out for with their children.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hard Facts will be right back.
This is Hard Facts.
On Hard Facts today, we are talking childhood cancer in children. I've got on the show with me a consultant pediatrician, Dr. Aya Renner. And Dr. Renner has helped answer a lot of questions. When we started, we played that documentary, that special report put together by my newsroom. And we told you that the World Health Organization says that 300,000 Nigerians, 300,000 children, not Nigerians, 300,000 children younger than 19 are diagnosed with cancer every year. That's not the number for Nigeria. We don't know the number for childhood cancer in Nigeria. And helping us figure out what not knowing those numbers means for us as Nigerians is Dr. Aya Renner. Now, before the break, Dr. Renner, I told you that I wanted to find out if there are early signs, that every parent should be on the lookout for with their children.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. So, different cancers will present with different sorts of symptoms. And the general rule is that if you notice a swelling, present to the hospital. Any unusual swelling on any part of the child's body, go to the hospital. If your child has been having a fever that has lasted for more than 2 weeks, go to the hospital because that's a bit of a problem. If the body of the child appears as though it's pale, as Dr. Omobi had said in the documentary, in the report, such that maybe you look at the lips and the lips are looking whitish, look at the hands just appear whitish, not as pink as they actually should be, then just go to the hospital. If you notice that there is any sort of blood in the urine, go to the hospital. If you touch the tummy and you feel any swelling anywhere in the tummy, present to the hospital. The fact of the matter is that cancer can present in a lot of different ways. So I think the emphasis really should be on early presentation. So regardless of what the symptoms might be, although these are the most common ones, not as mentioned, the prolonged fever, swelling on the part of the body, and that paleness of the body, just go to the hospital. And I think those are probably the most common symptoms of cancers, or the commonest cancers that we experience here in Nigeria.
Now, we hear all kinds of horror stories, of parents going bankrupt, trying to fund their children's cancer treatment. You talked about that before the break as well. And I have to ask if there are resources, that are available to parents to help with the financial burden. Are there?
Well, the truth is, organizations like the Children Living with Cancer Foundation, which is run by Dr. Umobi, does quite a fantastic job of raising funds to help children who have cancer. I know a few others, the Dorcas Children's Cancer Foundation, and then the Davian Children's Cancer Foundation. Now, these are all fantastic organizations that I've worked with personally and that I know do fantastic work. But that's just a minority. I mean, just think of the number of children that have cancer. Think of the amount of funds required to care for these children. And I mean, it's just three I can list off the top of my head, so that is barely scratching the surface of what needs to be done. Abroad, I think the donor culture is such that, people are aware that children have cancer. Physicians and people who are stakeholders in these situations make people aware that cancer exists and make them appeal to their good side, appeal to their good nature to say, I mean, yes, you can buy a Bentley, you can buy a Rolls Royce, but at the end of the day, I mean, what at the end of the day will a Bentley and a Rolls Royce do on the long run? But if you were to save the life of this child, who knows what this child will do for the nation tomorrow?
Especially on Lagos roads.
So, what will now happen, especially on Lagos roads, so Bentley on Lagos road, I don't understand it. Because if foretold, I will finish your house will last. So, at the end of the day, I appeal to those people. Like, for instance, the St. Jude's Hospital, in the United States, it's strictly children's cancer, and they organize things like annual benefits and annual, fundraising dinners and concerts where people come and pledge and donate a significant amount of money for cancer research and for the funding, because children that go to get treated at St. Jude, they don't pay a dime, they don't pay a single cent to get treated. And I hope that, with more advocacy, we can get to that point where Nigerians are aware and, can donate generously towards, this particular cause.
I have to talk about the government. Insufficient early detection and screening is also a public health issue. So what does government need to put in place, Dr. Renner, to improve early detection in general?
Early detection. So the responsibility of the government, I think, first and foremost, is awareness. Because, I mean, you remember, when we were growing up and there were those jingles about oral rehydration, ORS, that you take 2 bottles of beer and you go mix up. You 1 bottle of beer, you go mix up with 1 level teaspoon of salt and 5 cubes of sugar. Now, if you're baking the water sheet, it go save in life. How much do we hear? Have you ever heard a jingle about childhood cancer? I doubt that you have. I haven't. So, awareness, and this message is from the Federal Ministry of Health. So that is probably a good starting point, creating awareness about the fact that childhood cancers exist. Then the next thing, as you said, screening programs are very, very important. And so, but screening programs always need to be tailored because you just can't screen for everything. So you must screen for either the commonest cancers or the ones that are easiest to treat. And so, in my mind, that would probably be things like the kidney cancer, before they call it Wilms tumor. I would probably want to screen for, it's a bit hard to screen for leukemia, but at least you can screen for, the kidney tumors, you can screen for some sorts of lymphomas. But the screening programs need to be done in conjunction with the healthcare facilities and centers to say that, okay, if a child comes with so symptoms, consider it as cancer so that you can escalate as quickly as possible. So screening and then funding, of course, is also very important because the government, at the end of the day, is primarily the largest provider of care when it comes to cancer specifically. The private sector provides quite a significant amount of care for a lot of other conditions. But when it comes to childhood cancer, the government provides most of the care because you can't access cancer care in peripheral centers. You must be teaching hospitals, but our teaching hospitals equipped to take care of childhood cancers, not to the extent that is required.
And again, you also mentioned the fact that some of the personnel are not trained enough. You talked about the cost of training, for instance, pediatric oncologists and the low number of doctors stepping forward to specialize in that area. Now, there's the further issue of migration. Dr. Renner, doctors are skilled professionals in demand in the abroad, right? Where salaries and standard of living are better. And I'm assuming that oncologists are in special demand. Are we fighting a losing battle when it comes to retaining enough skilled doctors here in Nigeria? I'm sure that you've written your own IELTS by now.
Sandra, how do you know I'm even calling you from Lagos? How do you know I'm not calling you from the... how do you know I'm calling you from Ottawa? From Toronto. So it's a very important point. Are we fighting a losing battle? I don't think so. I don't think we're fighting a losing battle. The fact is, I was discussing with someone today, and there's a lot of private healthcare investment coming into Nigeria. Nigeria is still a green field as far as healthcare investment is concerned, and a lot of people are coming in to invest in Nigeria. So in the next few years, I believe that healthcare in Nigeria would have been enhanced and would be attractive enough financially to bring people back. I just hope that the government, will create the enabling environment.
Doesn't stand in the way.
In terms of infrastructure, in terms of power, to make this, because these are the things that should cost of running private facilities to treat such highly intense, financially intensive conditions like cancer. So people are shying away from treating that on a private basis. But yes, it takes a lot to train such people, and yes, pediatric oncologists are in high demand all over the world. It's interesting to mention here, as you said, that people are not really going into pediatric oncology here in Nigeria, and for a lot of reasons. So first of all, people just look at the success rate. So I would like suffer. Meet one child and then treat the child for 5 years, and then the day the child just come and die because the tumor spread somewhere or they couldn't complete the treatment. So that can be a little bit depressing. And you form an actual bond with some of these children because you've cared for them for quite a long time. Some of them they stayed on the ward for 10 months because you've seen them every day for the last 10 months. And so suddenly you come one morning and the next thing, they died. And as much as we don't want to call it grief, but the doctor actually feels grief.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not professional, to call it grief, but let's call it the state. When you go to your house, you get there and then you can't eat and you are drained emotionally and you actually cry. So for that reason, a lot of doctors actually don't want to go into pediatric oncology. But if the success rates were better, maybe more people would be interested in going to pediatric oncology.
And the success rates can only get better if we have all the facilities we need and if people can actually afford the care. So it's like one of my callers today said, a catch-22 situation.
Precisely.
You can join the conversation, by the way, you who's at home or in your car or in the office and you're listening to the show. You're listening from Ottawa. You can also call us. You can also call us. Our numbers are 01277 0993, 01277 1993, 2993, and 3993. These are the studio numbers. If you've got questions for our consultant pediatrician on the show, please call and ask him. I'm sure he'll be willing to answer them. Just don't ask for prescriptions and diagnosis live on air. All right, so I have to ask you, Dr. Renner, recently the IMF caused a bit of a stir when it recommended that Nigeria should scrap the fuel subsidy and invest the money in healthcare. So let me spin that a little bit and ask you, can a case be made for the government subsidizing the cost of treating childhood killer diseases like cancer? After all, they also subsidize immunization.
Yes. So when it comes to money, unfortunately, it's always a thing of numbers. And so looking at it from the perspective of a physician, I would say 100% definitely, because, every life is precious. Why should the life of, the child that has malaria, for instance, be more valuable than the life of the child that has leukemia? So they are equally valuable, and do I want to see the cost of leukemias being subsidized? Of course, I do. But the numbers of children that get killed by malaria every year far surpasses the number of children that will die of leukemia each year. And so it makes more sense from a financial standpoint. It makes more sense even from a profit standpoint for people selling anti-malarials, for people donating insecticide mosquito nets, to focus funds, efforts, and activities on things like malaria, on childhood diarrheal diseases, because justifiably, these diseases account for up to 80% of childhood deaths in Nigeria. But the few that will die of leukemia, they are a significant number, but they are nowhere near as numerous as those who will die from, these other common childhood causes, diarrheal disease, malnutrition, all of that. So, so the funds that one might realize from removing oil subsidy, from the viewpoint of the most impactful interventions, where would the money make more impact? It will make more impact in the malarias and in the and in the diarrheal disease. But does that mean that you should completely neglect childhood cancers? No. It still boils down to the fact that you need a childhood cancer registry. You need to find out what the most common cancer that children in Nigeria are suffering from, and then channel some funds in that direction. It might not solve all the problems in the world, but it will go some way in alleviating the problems and in alleviating the suffering of the children and their families from the burden that the treatment of these cancers places on them.
All right. Let me take a few calls. Our numbers again are 01277 0993. If you're female, that's the line you should be calling. 01277 0993 for our female callers. 01277 1993 for everybody else. 01277 1993, 2993, and 3993. 01277 1993, 2993 and 3993. Of course, you can send your message via WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. 080-959-75805. Emmanuel is in Ebutemeta. Hello, Emmanuel. Welcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Emmanuel. I love scientists.
Go ahead.
The most important thing I have to say is just awareness. Because by the time we create the awareness, it will be easier for us for the medical personnel to do what they're supposed to do, and government in the other hand will do what they're supposed to do to support and bring the equipment and whatever that is necessary to fight all this cancer and whatever other diseases. That's my suggestion.
All right, thank you, Emmanuel, for calling to make it. We've got Sam. Sam is at Ogudu, and he wants to talk to the doctor. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I've been listening for a while, and I heard the doctor talk about certain symptoms.
Okay.
That when you see such symptoms, you should quickly take the child to hospital.
Okay.
There is a case I have witnessed, even though it's not a child, but I still cancer.
Okay.
The person has been going to hospital, going and coming, and the doctors never suspected cancer, to the point that she felt she had a visible lump that was very visible.
Okay.
And then she went for screening again. They still did not detect it as cancer. In fact, it looks like they were confused. So at the end of the day, I'm asking, what then is the need of quickly taking someone to hospital when you go to hospital, they are treating the common illnesses, and then the last minute they discover it's cancer, and then nothing could be done, because at the end of the day, there was nothing we could do to save her life, because it was detected too early. Too late. She went through chemo, from chemo to radio something, all of that. So at the end of the day,
what's
we
the
need
point,
to really scale up. You will ask yourself, what's the point going to the hospital if they will not detect? A lot of people are of means who just travel abroad. They will just do a checkup and they will pick it up and say, oh, thank God I came here. And they'll be treating me for something else in Nigeria. So it's really frustrating.
All right, then, Sam, thank you so much for calling to share your thoughts. It looks like we put you on hold there for a sec, Dr. Ayo.
Yes, exactly.
Were you able to hear any of those questions?
I didn't. I was actually on hold. I didn't hear a thing.
Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that. So the first caller basically called with words of encouragement. And the second caller says, what's the point if you're going to go to a hospital for diagnosis and they are unable to diagnose you? What's the point if you because he shared a story of somebody, it wasn't a child, but they took the person early enough to the hospital. The doctors checked everything and they did not find cancer. That it got to a point, the person even had a visible lump, and when they got that visible lump, the doctors checked and they still were not able to detect cancer until later when her health continued to deteriorate, and then that was when they found cancer. And I have a similar story. In my father's case, my father even had surgery. It turns out that the tumor was pushing out his hernia or something, was causing hernia. And so he had hernia surgery, and they still did not realize that there was a tumor in there, So like the other guest, he's like, how do we, get over the what's the pointness part of the conversation if you do the right things and the hospitals still do not spot the disease?
I think so what needs to happen is that the hopelessness I think is worse than you seeking medical care, because I totally understand what you're talking about in terms of what really is the point. Why would I go and then suffer myself and then the person still cannot get the diagnosis? I might as well just take my chances with the herbalist. I mean, after all, they are probably the doctors are probably only slightly better.
Okay.
But what I would say is that sometimes you will meet that doctor that is, and quite frankly, some of these doctors are really good physicians.
Yeah.
But the problem is cancer is such a nasty piece of work
Yeah.
that people do not readily, first of all, think about it, which is a mistake and an error on the part of a lot of doctors, that they think, can this really be cancer? So they don't think about cancer, in a lot of situations.
Okay.
And I said that is an error.
Okay.
The other thing is, apart from meeting a doctor who might actually be able to diagnose the cancer, the fact is, once you get to the hospital and it's almost like the mechanic. I know a lot of us, when we're taking care of our cars, we just hand it over to the mechanic, and the mechanic just say, carburetor is bad, or carburetor is not good, and the radiator is bad, and they will just hand him over the money. But at some point, when they are finished scalping us of our hard-earned money, we start to Google what's going on. Say, this my AC that I turn on, and then the car starts to vibrate. What could the problem be? And we find out that, okay, so this is the problem. So the mechanic comes and tells you that, this is what the problem is. You say, but could it not be this as well? I know that going to Google can terrify the living daylight out of you.
Because Google basically tells you that everything is cancer.
With Google, everything is cancer,
everything.
Right?
So my head is aching me. It's brain cancer.
Brain cancer, Lily. so yeah, I know it can be quite scary, But if you're having unusual symptoms that are out of the ordinary for some reason, get a second opinion. So don't allow your scope to be narrowed to one, to one opinion. So if you've gotten, an opinion, you've gotten treatment for like 2 weeks, you are not getting better, report to the same doctor. If he still insists that diagnosis is correct and you are not comfortable, you are more than at liberty, to seek a second opinion and to seek a third, and to do your own research, to ask another physician, to ask a friend, to ask who might have any idea.
So basically, don't be intimidated by the doctor. Ask questions, make suggestions about your own health.
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, in some instances, patients have said, could it be this? And I'm like, that's a possibility. And I check it up and I say, come back and see me in 2 weeks, come and see me in a week. And sometimes the patient has diagnosed themselves, and I'm like, okay, so this is correct, actually, so this is right. And there's no shame in, as for a physician, and this was physicians, there's no shame in saying, I do not know, I will need to refer you to somewhere else or to someone else for you to get a second opinion. And I think that's where we need to get to as a community.
As a people. For instance, in my case, my father kept being diagnosed of malaria. They kept treating malaria. And at some point, I said, this malaria, we know they go. He got a CBO. For months, every time he went for a test, the tests would actually come back positive for malaria. So it was quite the mind game, but eventually we got the diagnosis, and it just wasn't able to, we just weren't able to do anything about it, because by the time it gets to stage 4, there's really not a lot you can do about it. Dr. Rana, thank you so much for talking to us on Hard Facts today. You were such fun. We should have you back.
I would love to be back. Well, I wanted to turn on, my radio and then tune it up and then, the feedback, so you guys can tell me, please turn down the volume of your radio set. But I was nice. I didn't do that.
We can just give you the link. We can give you the link where we did the show, so you can listen to the show itself. Thank you so much, Dr. Rana.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for having me. And I think, I would just like to give a shout out to all the parents out there who have children that are living with cancer, and just encourage them to stay, just keep your heads up, just stay encouraged. Ask for help if you need help. And, I'm praying. I have you in my prayers.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rana. Dr. Rana is a consultant pediatrician. Coming up is the news at 6. After that, let's talk about the Aghogho steel, shall we? That's coming up on I Beg to Differ. After the news, I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
Hard Facts will be right back.